Afternoon, everyone. Meteorologist Jessica Blum here in the 1011 streaming studio alongside meteorologist Carmelo Lattuca on your Tuesday, November 18th. It is just before 5 p.m. and we're taking a look at the forecast for not only today, because there's some interesting things to talk about today, but also going forward toward Thanksgiving, right, Carmelo?
A lot of talk about what could happen as we head into next week and later on next week and into next weekend, maybe even the first few days of December. A lot of conjecture, I would say, at this point. You know, there's some patterns that we can look at, but in terms of a certainty, it's going to snow this day. It's going to snow this much. Definitely won't even, I don't know, anyone that would want to go there, but definitely a lot to talk about. But today's notable, Jessica. Tell us why.
Yeah, and you're talking about buzzwords. So snow, always a buzzword at this time of the year. And today is interesting just because within records, within averages, and talking about snow, within records dating back to the 1800s, the late 1800s. On average, Lincoln's first snowfall happens today, November 18th. But the earliest first snow on record was September 29th from 1985. That was a little less than an inch. The latest first snow in Lincoln was January 5th, just last year. Latest snow happened very, very late in the season. It was only half an inch. I'd be okay if this season went down like that again.
Wow.
I really like a white Christmas, so maybe a little bit earlier than that. But
it looks like for the fifth straight year, we are talking about behind the average date.
Yeah, tell us about the last few years.
It's
interesting.
I mean, January 5th, we were all waiting for our first snow last year. Even then, it was only half an inch for the first one. We get into the year before. We're talking about 2023, 2024, November 25th. So right around that Thanksgiving holiday, December 19th, December 10th, 3 straight years of October. I don't know if you remember the 2018, 2019 one, Jessica. That was our freshman year of college.
I was going to say, I think I do remember that.
That was just a wild winter season. In total, we had over 50 inches of snow that season. So
did we have a lot of ice with that too?
Had a lot of ice. That 2018, 2019.
That was wild.
Floods that happened in March.
Yeah,
2019.
yeah.
So it was just a lot of factors. That was a crazy winter season, but really just been all over the place. And it looks like we could have some snow next week, but it's still so early to tell.
And you can tell within looking at the last 10 years or so, each first snowfall is usually less than an inch. You have to go back to, again, what Carmelo was just talking about with the 2018-2019 year to see anything above an inch.
3.5.
And that was 3.5 all of a sudden. And that's rare. So we are looking at maybe some snow chances somewhere in the state, maybe toward the end of next week for how things are trending. We're not, of course, going to rule that out, but I think it's important to talk about kind of what we look forward to at this time frame, because we are about 7 to 10 days out of Thanksgiving.
From what we're starting to see as our first potential something going on as we head into next week. And talking about winter forecasting, there's so much that goes into it. It's such a different beast compared to severe weather. You know, severe weather, a few days out, day of, really hone in on the details. We start to see signals of, some sort of winter event a week or more out. But if anything, it's just like, there's a chance of precipitation as opposed to guaranteeing snow, guaranteeing rain, totals, It's just pattern recognition.
There's so many products we look at when winter forecasting, too. You got to look at what type of snow it's going to be for the compaction, let alone how systems are tracking, whether dry air is going to play a part in this. So we're factoring a lot of things, but we just wanted to lay out a timeline for what you can expect as we get closer to Thanksgiving, because that is the busiest travel weekend of the year. I know a lot of plans are looking to be made this far out already, so we're kind of breaking down at this point what you can expect when, as we are looking at maybe a little something coming toward Thanksgiving, if not later at this point. So 4 to 7 days out is when we will likely start using the words, more or less likely, that something is going to happen. But you're getting closer to the event. And really, I think, hammering on that 4-day time frame that we are getting a little more certain that something may be impacting the area at that time.
Yes, we get a little bit closer to, more or less likely. Once you get to that 2 to 4 days out, though, that's when we start talking about the timing. Does this look to be a morning event? Does this look to be an afternoon, evening event, an overnight event? And then the type of storm. Is it going to be all rain? Is there going to be a wintry mix? Is it going to be all snow? Start to hone in on those details. But even then, 2 to 4 days out, it's almost incredibly rare to start even talking about snowfall totals because things change so quickly. And even they change in the 24-hour out range. But that's when we start to talk about how much could we see?
Yeah, because we want to, we'll admit that when you're trying to plan for travel, you are doing it at this point, but we are not going to know much for the details and what's going to impact you when until we're getting closer to the event. So it is a little bit of a shot in the dark trying to take some travel plans this far out? I know you've had to plan some flights, haven't you?
I have.
Coming up. So,
Yes.
I mean, Carmelo's, of course, looking at this for personal reasons, let alone are we looking at this for all of you at home, too. But we, yes, are likely not going to talk about amounts, locations, where, because shifts can happen leading up to a day or two when we're forecasting anything winter-wise. But we haven't had anything winter-wise to talk about on this date.
Too warm.
Our average...
Cool, but sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, you're good. I was just going to say our average for snowfall usually happens today, and we're not talking about snowfall today.
Not talking about snow. I mean, if we saw any precipitation, it would fall in the form of rain. I mean, it was a little chilly out there today.
Under the cloud cover,
Cool.
it certainly does feel cold.
That kept us cooler. We were thinking low 50s, but we ended up staying into the 40s. The 50s really were in far southeast and far southwest Nebraska.
And some only topped out at around 40 degrees. Ainsworth, Valentine, O'Neill, only 41 degrees for a high. We see the cloud cover really for most of us in eastern Nebraska. North Platte is seeing some more sunshine, but the cloud cover is blanketed much of the afternoon to limit those temperatures. And we have slipped a little bit since those high temperatures earlier on in the day. So the 1011 studio sitting at 45 degrees. The Lincoln Airport is at 44 degrees, but notice it feels like the 30s right now. Carmelo's looking at this, and you're almost off for the day. So, do you have a jacket? Do you need a jacket today?
I do have a jacket. You're gonna need those jackets.
Northerly breeze today too certainly makes you feel like you need the jacket.
I don't think there's a day in the next 7 you can get away, as opposed to last week when we were talking about the 7-day forecast. There were days where you're like t-shirts and shorts.
70s last week though.
I just don't think there's a day in the 7-day where you can get away with it completely the whole day. In the morning hours you're gonna need at least a jacket.
Yeah, and there is no 70s. Unfortunately, spoiler, there's no 70s on the 7-day forecast to talk about. But temperatures across Lincoln currently sit in and around the middle and lower 40s. A lot of us are in the lower 40s at this point. Around 43, 44 degrees. We're at 44 at the Lincoln Airport, but northeast Nebraska is sitting in the lower 40s as well. And then you do have some in the 50s, namely Falls City is warm, around 54 degrees. 57, though, out in Sydney. 55 degrees in Scottsbluff. The sun certainly helping.
A lot more blue than green on that map.
Yes, there is on your Tuesday, which makes this map all the more fun to look at. A significant temperature change compared to this time yesterday. A lot of us across the state are sitting around 5 to 15 degrees cooler than Monday.
And it'll probably be the opposite tomorrow. I think 5 to 15 warmer as our winds get back out of the south. Still cloud cover tomorrow. Maybe not as much as today, but I would expect this map to kind of flip the script.
We're really teetering throughout the week.
Yeah, absolutely.
Warmer,
it's a lot up and down.
Dipping. Yeah, and we'll talk about when the next dip comes throughout this week. Winds are out of the north for a lot of us, especially in eastern Nebraska. No higher wind gusts to talk about, but we've got a good northerly breeze around 5 to 15 miles per
A
hour.
little chill in the air.
Yes, just enough underneath some of that cloud cover without the sunshine. There you see all the cloud cover really across the state. Again, Falls City was a little warmer. They are seeing sunshine. They're on the edge of that cloud cover, and then some sun poking through for some areas out to the west as well. And you'll notice, I think some more sunshine will be poking through for much of the panhandle here shortly as you look at the last 3-4 hour loop over satellite and radar. But let's talk about this evening, Carmelo, and some of the cloud cover.
Wildly different than last night. We ended up seeing some thunderstorms, even a severe thunderstorm out there.
We did.
I had some hail at my house. It was
Yes.
very tiny, but I heard it. I'm like, wow.
We were streaming last night.
Yes.
Talking about it.
Just incredible, though. November.
Yeah,
I mean, things happen
November,
at any
severe
time of the year,
thunderstorm.
but it's just not a typical thing you would see. But for the rest of tonight, I think we'll still see some mostly cloudy skies as we play this out into the overnight hours. Maybe even some patchy fog out there early tomorrow morning. Not a big concern by any means, but cloud cover through the morning into the afternoon. I think sunshine filtered throughout the day. We thought there could be a chance for rain, I think, earlier this week on Wednesday. I think we've dropped that chance now. You see northeastern Kansas with some light rain, but I do think we're going to be mainly quiet. And then we'll see clearing skies as we head into Wednesday evening into Thursday with just a mix of sun and clouds on Thursday. I think Thursday, though, more sunshine compared to Wednesday.
And then a little more rain trying to sneak in second part of Thursday for southwest Nebraska. Better chance at any precipitation toward the end of this week until we get into Friday. There's going to be a little system. You're kind of seeing the beginnings of it here, tracking mainly to our south. And I think the better chance for any measurable rainfall as this map loads in a little bit will be toward the Kansas border, really.
Yeah, you're going to see a lot of green pop up. I mean, doesn't mean when I say a lot of green, doesn't mean a lot of heavy rain, but in terms of along and south of I-80 for sure, you see that text, a little to no precipitation expected in far northern, far northwestern Nebraska. maybe up to 3/4 of an inch in southwestern Nebraska, maybe up to a half an inch in southeastern Nebraska. I know this graphic sometimes takes a little while.
Oh, there it
There
is.
it is, yeah. But you see those darker blues over closer to the McCook area. That's where we could see the higher rainfall totals. But you see, once you go north of I-80, it's slim pickings in terms of rainfall amounts. And, we certainly could use the moisture. It's one of the driest Novembers on record. And last year was the third wettest November. So we're really flipping the script in terms of that. So we certainly could use the moisture. I know, not too concerned about the drought monitor at this point, but I never like to end the month below average.
No, and I think we've seen some trends for at least northeast Nebraska a little worse in recent weeks for some of the drought conditions, but not expecting a ton of precipitation really for those same areas, or really, I think here in Lincoln. I wouldn't be surprised to be mainly driving through Friday, maybe see a few showers, but it not adding up to much.
I mean, yesterday we saw 1300s.
And that was just from one thunderstorm coming through.
But I think what's notable about that is before that, we'd only seen 600s for the whole month. We more than doubled our monthly rain.
Yeah.
Our precipitation just with yesterday, and that wasn't even a lot.
So likely going to turn dry again before this weekend, before the holiday week. But we did want to take you kind of step by step for the end of this week. This next chance for rain with this system
Chance of moisture between now and the weekend for sure.
is Friday,
As
you're
Friday,
saying.
it's
Yes.
Friday. We taking a look across the region just to show you that the chances are certainly higher further to the south, and maybe even to central western Nebraska. It's really just that eastern third of the state, where if it's going to rain closer to the Nebraska-Kansas border, and then it kind of just falls apart as we go into Friday evening. And after that, we're talking about quiet conditions into Saturday. Now, we can go into next week. I paused this through Sunday evening. Pretty quiet through the weekend. Didn't see a lot of green there. A lot of sunshine. We're actually going to warm up back into the 60s. We start talking about next week, though. I know people are concerned or, curious about what's going to happen. There are chances for moisture. Whether that falls in the form of rain or snow, I would say, without a doubt, is still left to be determined. Maybe a little bit of a system Monday night into Tuesday. We fast forward this just a little more. Not terrible. I think we can handle some rain for the Thanksgiving travel week. That's not going to be too bad. I know people will be traveling the days leading up to Thanksgiving. And then we fast forward this just a little bit more. It's possible Wednesday and maybe even into Thursday, we start to see some snow. I will say, Bill Rentschler and I looked at the latest model runs today. And we looked at the ensemble. What that means is, one model runs 30, 50 different times with different conditions. One of them, very little snowfall between now and the end of the month. Another one, kind of split in terms of snowfall totals, but it's so far out. So it's not like they're saying widespread snowfall is going to happen, It kind of keeps pushing back, but only time will tell.
And even at this point, we're talking about Wednesday morning, and most of this snowfall is over the Rockies, with maybe a few showers trying to sneak into the Panhandle. But let's look forward in time. This is Wednesday evening, maybe a little snow trying to dive further south and east through southern Nebraska.
What I like about this is, that came from the northwest to the southeast. And what that tells us, it's what we call a clipper system. So it clips the area, a little bit of snowfall. It isn't this Gulf moisture type of snow system that would really enhance those totals. So if we see snow, based on that, it would be on the lighter side, and then pretty quiet through Thanksgiving, and then hopefully quiet into Black Friday. That was just one model, though. Let's play this other model.
So we're again going from Friday to Friday.
Yes.
So starting at this Friday morning, chance for rain again along
Really
I-80
south,
into the south, and especially into Kansas, Missouri, and you can see just south of the Great Lakes. Then we're heading through the weekend, looking dry, really statewide, and into Sunday night. But you're starting to see the beginnings of the next system kind of coming up from the Gulf
That
to
Monday
give
night
us
to Tuesday. So, wildly different. The other one had, I think, rain over half the state Tuesday. So there's a system that could move through Monday into Tuesday, but it looks like mainly rain, at least on both of our long track models. So that's good. It keeps us a good signal so far. But then again, even with this model, Wednesday, maybe into Thursday, a little bit of a clipper in terms of the snow, moves off to the south and east, maybe sticks around a little bit later Wednesday, and then I think exits the area by the time we get into Thursday. So if I'm looking at it from the meteorologist perspective at next week, based on what I just saw on our two latest long track models, I don't think that's that bad.
I'm not very concerned, unless
I'm
I'm
not
traveling
too
to western
concerned.
Nebraska,
Right.
or you're joining us from western Nebraska, and you're probably ready to see some snow at this point.
Yes.
They were very dry last season.
Maybe you stay tuned to the forecast. You adjust travel plans. If you have to leave on Wednesday, I know it's the day before. It's probably one of the busier days next week. People aren't leaving Monday or Tuesday. Drive cautious. Be patient.
I'm not
No
altering
rush.
plans at this
No,
point.
I don't
right
think
now.
I don't think so at all. I think that's really good right now. I would say, things could change, but I'm happy with what I'm seeing through Thursday. So I like that.
So this is what we're looking at, and this is kind of our look toward Thanksgiving. But now we're going to bring it back to more short-term forecasts for the end of this week. Talk about those temperatures tonight, slipping down to the 30s. This would be a little bit cooler than last night into this morning. Right around freezing for some areas. I think we'll stay above that in much of southeast Nebraska and toward the Missouri River, and then a little warmer tomorrow.
Yeah, a lot
50s
more 60s,
and 60s.
no 40s out there, so that's really nice. Just warmer to the west, but 45 to 57 would be really nice in Lincoln. And then we head into Thursday morning. More of the same, I think, in eastern Nebraska, maybe a little bit cooler off into the west, but 35 degrees potentially over the next couple of nights, and then a little bit cooler though Thursday afternoon, at least for some of us. Still right around that same high temperature in Lincoln, but not as many 60s out to the west. A little bit more in terms of 50s, but still better than today. At one point we thought Friday might be the coolest day, and I think today's going to end up being the coolest day this week.
Yeah, because look at temperatures closer to 60 degrees. That is above average for this time of the year, and we're talking sunshine for much of Wednesday and Thursday. That doesn't feel too bad.
No, not at all. Not at all. When we take a look at the 7-day forecast, I think Saturday and Sunday are the nicest days in the 7-day forecast. We even threw the word nice in on both of those days. We did. Bill chose it, and I'm like, I couldn't agree more. I even told him this would be great if the Penn State game was at home at 2:30. 60 degrees in November? Can't beat that.
What I like is this gives you an opportunity to, and I've seen this done before, some people have some really nice setups. They can project the game on the side of their house.
Oh.
They can set up a little fire pit, invite the neighbors over, or just have some family over, and you're watching the game on the side of your house, and conditions are feeling pretty good.
You gotta love technology. It would be a great night for a fire,
Yeah.
It'll be a little chilly at night, but, it's gonna be dry, so mostly sunny conditions over the weekend, and then watching out for maybe a system moving through next Tuesday. But, again, at one point this week looked really unsettled, and we saw a little bit last night. Could see some more Friday, but pretty quiet overall.
Closer to 60 degrees the next couple of days, and then again by this weekend, just a brief cool down on Friday as we talk about your 10-day forecast across the state. This is still hinting at some much colder air, yes, toward the end of next week and around Thanksgiving. So even though we're not talking about the precipitation, we are getting a little more confident in some colder weather by the time Thanksgiving's rolling around.
I know it's below average. I don't really think it's nothing we can't handle.
No.
The coldest
we're Nebraskans.
We're Nebraskans. The coldest high we've seen in Lincoln has been 35. And, we maybe get to 35 Black Friday, but, it's not terrible. It's at least I'm glad it's still above freezing. So if we get precipitation, I just hope it stays in the form of rain. But those are our temperatures. Warm over the weekend, cooler next week. Precipitation chances, let's take a look at that. I know everyone will be interested to see. Friday, still, I think, pinpoint the highest, amounts. And again, it's going to be along and south of I-80. But into next week, I see 10 to 20% chances. But I like what I'm seeing right now. That's what you want to see this far out.
Yeah, peaking around 40% toward Falls City as we were showing you those longer range models. It looks like it could clip southeast Nebraska, and that's why the amounts kind of drop off elsewhere in the state.
But that's Tuesday, and that's also rain.
Yes. Yep, exactly. So talking about the precipitation outlook overall from November 26th, the day before Thanksgiving, through the first couple of days of December, we are still overall throughout the state leaning toward a good chance of above average precipitation, even a little bit better toward northwestern Nebraska.
So at this point, based on what we just saw, you have to imagine the vast majority of this is the weekend after Black Friday into the first few days of December. Because it looked dry, at least from what we just saw in terms of the Thursday and Friday. So maybe wetter than it. And I know that's when people would be going home for the most part, too. So it's not something, we're not out of the woods yet. I'm not too worried either. We're kind of just, we're waiting and seeing kind of thing. So looks wetter than average. And it looks a little bit cooler than average, too. Our average high at this point is going to be dropping into the 40s. So kind of consistent with those 30s, what we saw.
But we know, we live in Nebraska. We know this was coming at some point to get into the colder temperatures, eventually see a few more instances of maybe a few flurries flying through the air here in eastern Nebraska. It's only a matter of time.
Yeah, and there's not a lot of dark blue on that map. This is just the chances also, too, of below average temperatures. It doesn't mean it's a guarantee. It's just favored that way.
Exactly. So that's really what we were looking to talk about today. Share with you that today is the average for snowfall in Lincoln based on records, but we're not talking about snow anytime soon, really, throughout this week. There is a chance for maybe a little wintry precipitation
Like Wednesday
toward
next week.
the middle of next week, and really that was looking a little bit better for western and maybe southwestern Nebraska. We're going to keep an eye on that, of course, with the busiest travel week and weekend coming up here, but that should do it here for us on this Tuesday afternoon into almost the evening hours. We wish you a great Tuesday and safe travels if you're looking to leave earlier than what we've talked about. Even I know some may even get to start out later this weekend.
Absolutely.
But appreciate your time always, Carmelo, as well. And until next time, we again hope you have a great rest of your Tuesday evening.